The plate hit the table with a sharp clack that sliced through the noise of the dining room. "Zero," the man said loudly, tapping the receipt with a manicured finger. "That's your tip." The restaurant went quiet, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that feels like everyone has leaned forward at once. Forks hovered mid-air. A wineglass chimed against the table as someone's hand trembled. At the center of it all stood Maya Carter, a single mom waitress with tired eyes and an apron stained from a 12-hour shift. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't step back. Across from her sat Elliot Cross, a billionaire whose name glided through headlines like silk. His suit was charcoal black and perfectly pressed. His watch alone probably cost more than Maya made in a year. He smiled without warmth, the way men do when they know the room belongs to them. "You heard me," he continued, raising his voice so the surrounding tables could enjoy the show. "Zero, for service that's slow, that's sloppy," he gestured at the plate where the remnants of a steak lay like evidence. "I'd be doing you a favor not complaining to your manager." Maya swallowed. Her hands shook, but she folded the receipt carefully, as if respect could still be salvaged from the paper. "Sir," she said, soft but steady, "I apologized for the delay. The kitchen had an excuse," Elliot cut in. A few people chuckled. Others stared down at their plates, suddenly fascinated by mashed potatoes. "You people always have excuses." The word people landed hard. Maya felt it strike her chest, knocking the air from her lungs. She could feel the heat in her face, the sting behind her eyes. She had learned how to hold tears back years ago, learned it the day her daughter asked why Santa forgot their house. "I refilled your drink twice," Maya said. "I comped your dessert." And yet," Elliot said, leaning back, crossing his arms, "you still couldn't manage to do your job properly." A manager hovered nearby, half hidden behind a pillar. He made eye contact with Maya, then looked away. No help was coming. Elliot picked up his pen and scrawled something viciously across the receipt. He slid it toward her with a smirk. "There, a reminder. Maybe it'll motivate you to try harder." Maya looked down. $0 underneath it, written in sharp, deliberate letters. "Earn it next time." The room exhaled, a collective intake of pity and discomfort. A woman at the next table whispered, "That's cruel." Her husband shushed her. Maya forced herself to breathe. She thought of the daycare bill due tomorrow morning, the electricity notice taped to her fridge, the shoes her daughter had outgrown 2 months ago. She had worked this table for nearly 3 hours. She had smiled through insults, hustled refills, double-checked orders. And now, "Sir," she said again, quieter now, "I depend on tips to what?" Elliot interrupted. "Survive. Maybe you should have made better choices." There it was, the final cut. Maya's vision blurred. She felt suddenly very small, standing there in her worn sneakers and faded uniform beneath the chandelier that glowed like it had never known hunger. "I'm sorry," she said. The words tasted bitter. She bent to collect the plates. Elliot laughed, not loud, worse, soft, dismissive. "Don't be, this is a lesson." As Maya reached for the main plate, her fingers brushed something cool and folded beneath it. Paper, thick paper. She froze. Elliot noticed. "What, looking for crumbs now?" Maya slid the plate aside. Underneath it lay an envelope, not a check, not cash. An envelope cream-colored, heavy, sealed with a dark wax stamp bearing a simple symbol, a compass rose. The room leaned in again. "What's that?" someone murmured. Maya stared at the envelope as if it might vanish. Her heart hammered. She hadn't seen that symbol in years, not since before her life collapsed into shifts and bills and apologies. Elliot frowned. "That's not mine," he snapped. "I left a 0. Be grateful I didn't leave less." Maya's fingers trembled as she picked it up. Her name was written on the front, Maya Carter. The handwriting was elegant, familiar. Her breath caught. The noise of the restaurant dulled, like someone had turned the world down a notch. For a moment, she wasn't a waitress being humiliated. She was someone else. Someone she hadn't been allowed to be for a long time. Elliot scoffed. "What now, you're pretending customers leave you secret notes? Cute." Maya didn't answer. She turned the envelope over. There was no return address, just the wax seal. Her mind raced. Who would know my name? She hadn't introduced herself. The reservation was under Elliot's assistant's name. This wasn't a prank, was it? The manager finally stepped closer. "Is there a problem here?" "Yes," Elliot said sharply. "Your server is—" Maya broke the seal. The envelope opened with a soft snap that sounded thunderous in the silence. Inside was a single card, and beneath it something else. Her knees nearly buckled. She clutched the table to steady herself, eyes scanning the words once, twice. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Card read, "You did everything right tonight." Under it lay a keycard, black, minimalist, embossed with the same compass rose. The air in the room felt charged, electric. Someone whispered, "What is that?" Elliot leaned forward now, curiosity replacing his smugness. "Let me see that." Maya snapped the envelope shut and pressed it to her chest. Her hands were shaking violently. Tears spilled over, not the broken kind, but the stunned, disbelieving kind. "Hey," Elliot said, irritation creeping back in. "You don't get to dramatize my dinner. Give that here." Maya took a step back. "No," she said. The word surprised them both. The manager blinked. "Maya, maybe you should." She looked up. For the first time, she met Elliot's eyes without flinching. "I served you," she said, her voice steadier now, strengthened by something deep and buried. "I did my job, and whatever this is," she touched the envelope. "It's not yours." Elliot stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "You think you can talk to me like that?" "Do you know who I am?" Maya nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "I do." The room felt like it might shatter. Elliot laughed again, louder this time, sharp with disbelief. "Then you know exactly how replaceable you are." Maya's gaze dropped to the envelope once more. Her fingers traced the wax seal, the compass rose. Her heart thundered with a truth she had tried to forget. He doesn't know, she realized. The billionaire didn't know who she was, and he had no idea what he'd just left behind under that plate. The manager opened his mouth to speak, but Maya raised a hand gently, stopping him. Her eyes glistened, not with fear anymore, but with something dangerously close to hope. The envelope felt warm in her palm. Somewhere deep inside, a door she thought was sealed forever had just cracked open. And on the other side waited a secret powerful enough to turn this room upside down. But before we see how this ends, let me ask you something. Question of the day. Have you ever been judged unfairly or treated like you didn't matter, only for life to prove them wrong later? Tell us your story in the comments below and let us know where you're watching from. But before we see how this ends, let's go back to where this story truly began. 3 years earlier, the sound that woke Maya Carter every morning wasn't an alarm clock. It was her daughter coughing. A small, fragile sound, muffled through the thin wall of their one-bedroom apartment, but sharp enough to slice straight through Maya's sleep. She jolted upright in bed, heart racing, already counting in her head rent, daycare, groceries, electricity, before her feet even touched the floor. "Lena," she called softly. "I'm okay, Mommy," came the small voice from the other room. "Just dry." Maya exhaled, the knot in her chest loosening just a little. She pulled on an old hoodie and padded barefoot across the cold linoleum. Lena sat up in her bed, her dark curls a wild halo around her face, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit like a life raft. Maya knelt and pressed her forehead to her daughter's. "You sure?" Lena nodded bravely. She was 6, but some mornings she carried herself like she was much older, like she understood things children shouldn't have to understand. "I had a dream," Lena said. "We were in a big house, with stairs." Maya smiled, even though her throat tightened. "That sounds like a good dream." "Yeah," Lena said. "You weren't tired there." Maya hugged her daughter tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of baby shampoo and laundry soap. "One day," she whispered, more to herself than to Lena. "One day." This was Maya's life now, measured in small promises, quiet sacrifices, and the relentless ticking of overdue notices. But it hadn't always been this way. Once, Maya Carter had been something else entirely, before the apron. Before the late-night shifts, before learning how to smile through disrespect, she had been brilliant. At 22, Maya graduated top of her class in business analytics. Professors had fought over her internships. Companies had circled like sharks, eager to snatch her up. She had a mind that saw patterns where others saw chaos and a quiet confidence that didn't need to shout. And then she met Daniel Carter. Daniel was charming in the way that made you feel chosen. He spoke about the future like it was a shared destination, not a vague idea. He believed in Maya, at least that's what she thought. They married young, moved fast. And when Lena came along, Maya made the decision she believed good mothers made. She paused her career. "Just for a year," Daniel had said, kissing her forehead. "I've got us." The year became 2. Then came the layoffs, the long silences, the slammed doors. Daniel didn't leave dramatically. He didn't shout or fight. He simply stopped coming home. And when Maya finally tracked him down, the words were already rehearsed. "I can't do this," he said flatly. "You changed." She almost laughed at that. By the time the divorce papers were signed, Daniel had disappeared into another life, another woman, another state, another set of promises. Child support came late, if at all. The savings vanished faster than Maya thought possible. She sold her car, then her laptop, then the last nice dress she owned. Pride followed shortly after. The restaurant job wasn't supposed to be permanent, but permanent has a way of sneaking up on you. Every day, Maya woke before sunrise to get Lena ready for school, walked her to the bus stop, then caught 2 buses across town to the restaurant, Belmont Grill, a place where crystal glasses outnumbered smiles. She worked double shifts, weekends, holidays. She learned to carry 4 plates at once, to anticipate refills before customers noticed their glasses were empty, to apologize even when she wasn't wrong. Most days, she came home too exhausted to eat. Still, she never complained because Lena was watching, and because somewhere deep inside, Maya believed this wasn't the end of her story. That belief was tested the morning everything changed. Maya stood at the kitchen counter, staring at a white envelope stamped with red letters. Final notice. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. The daycare payment was overdue. Again, if she missed one more week, Lena would lose her spot. Maya sank into the chair, pressing her fingers to her temples. Losing daycare meant losing shifts. Losing shifts meant losing the apartment. The math was brutal and immediate. Her phone buzzed, a text from her manager. Big reservation tonight. VIP. Need you on the floor. Don't mess this up. Maya stared at the screen. Tonight's tips could cover the daycare bill. Maybe even the electricity. It was her one chance to breathe. I'll figure it out, she whispered, folding the notice and tucking it into her bag. I always do. She kissed Lena goodbye, pasted on a smile, and stepped back into the grind. Belmont Grill transformed at night. Soft lighting, live piano, the kind of place where menus didn't have prices because the people who ate there didn't need to see them. Maya tied her apron, smoothed her hair into a neat bun, and took a deep breath. She reminded herself of her rules: be kind, be invisible, don't let them see how much you need this. That was when she saw the reservation name on the board. Her stomach dropped. Everyone knew Elliot Cross, the tech billionaire, the venture capitalist, the man whose endorsement could make or destroy careers. He was known for impeccable taste, ruthless standards, and zero patience, and he was notorious with staff. I'll take that table, another server said quickly. Maya shook her head. I've got it. Server blinked. Are you sure he's you know? I know, Maya said, but I've got it. She didn't know why she insisted. Maybe it was pride, maybe desperation, maybe some quiet instinct nudging her forward. Elliot Cross arrived precisely at 7, the suit, the watch, the unmistakable aura of a man accustomed to obedience. Maya approached with menus and a practiced smile. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Belmont Grill. He glanced at her like she was furniture. Water, sparkling, no ice. Yes, sir. From the very beginning, nothing pleased him. The water took too long. The lighting was too dim. The table next to him laughed too loudly. The steak wasn't cooked exactly to his liking. Every minor inconvenience became a test she was doomed to fail. Maya apologized, corrected, adjusted, smiled. Inside, she was counting dollars with every interaction. Please, just get through this. When the kitchen delayed his entree by 6 minutes, Elliot snapped. Do you people even know who I am? I'm very sorry, sir, Maya said calmly. We're prioritizing your order. He studied her then, not as a person, but as a concept, something beneath him. Single mom? He asked suddenly. Maya stiffened. Excuse me? The ring-tan line, he said casually. The tired eyes, the cheap shoes, I'm guessing single mom. Heat crept up her neck. That's not relevant to your order, sir, he smirked. Figures. Still, Maya stayed because tonight mattered, because Lena mattered. Because this shift could decide whether her daughter kept her daycare, her stability, her small sense of safety. And when Elliot Cross finally finished his meal, dabbed his mouth with a linen napkin, and reached for the check, Maya dared to hope. She didn't see the envelope then. She didn't know that under that plate, beneath the arrogance and cruelty, something had been waiting, something from a life she thought was gone forever, something that would change everything. Maya had served difficult customers before. Drunk couples who argued over appetizers, entitled executives who snapped their fingers instead of speaking, tourists who tipped in loose change and gratitude, but Elliot Cross was different. He wasn't loud. He wasn't messy. He was precise, and that made him dangerous. From the moment she returned with his water, sparkling, no ice, Maya felt like she was being measured, weighed, found lacking. His eyes followed her movements not with interest, but with calculation, as though he were evaluating a machine that wasn't functioning properly. Do you always walk that slowly? He asked as she set the glass down. I'm sorry. From the bar to the table, he continued, checking his watch. It took you 18 seconds, inefficient. Maya blinked once. I'll be quicker next time, sir. I doubt it. The piano music floated softly through the dining room, but the space around Elliot's table felt cold, isolated. Other diners stole glances, quickly looking away when they noticed the tension. Maya handed him the menu. Can I answer any questions? Yes, he said, scanning the page. Why does a place like this hire someone like you? Her fingers tightened around her notepad. I'm sorry, sir. You heard me, Elliot said, eyes still on the menu. Presentation matters. Image matters. And you don't fit the brand. The words hit harder than he knew. Maya forced a breath. Are you ready to order? He finally looked up, annoyance flickering across his face. You should be thanking me. I'm giving you honest feedback. People pay thousands for consulting advice like that. She nodded, jotting down his order. Of course. As she turned to leave, he added, almost as an afterthought, medium rare, and if it's wrong, don't bother apologizing, just fix it. Yes, sir. Back in the kitchen, Maya leaned against the stainless steel counter for a brief second, eyes closed. Her coworker Jess noticed immediately. That's the cross table, isn't it? Jess whispered. You okay? Maya opened her eyes and smiled faintly. I'm fine, Jess frowned. You don't have to. I've got it, Maya said gently. Really? But she didn't feel fine. She felt small. She felt the familiar ache of being judged by someone who knew nothing about her life, her sacrifices, her intelligence, her worth. She plated his meal herself, triple-checking the temperature, the garnish, the presentation. When she returned, she moved quickly, efficiently, just as he demanded. She set the plate down with care. Elliot cut into the steak. He chewed slowly, too slowly. Finally, he sighed. Overcooked. Maya's heart sank. She leaned closer, checking the center. It was perfectly medium rare. I'm very sorry, she said. I can have it remade immediately. He waved a dismissive hand. No. I don't have time for your incompetence. I'll eat it. Still, he pushed the plate away slightly, as if disgusted. The bystanders noticed now. A couple at the next table exchanged looks. A man near the bar muttered, "What a jerk," under his breath. But no one intervened. They never did. Throughout the meal, Elliot found fault in everything. The silverware wasn't aligned properly. The wine recommendation was predictable. The refill came too early, then too late. Each comment chipped away at Maya's composure. And yet she stayed professional, because the tip mattered, because walking away meant giving him power. When dessert was finished and the check placed on the table, Maya felt her pulse quicken. She had done everything right, gone above and beyond, even comped the dessert at the manager's discretion to smooth things over. She stood a respectful distance away, waiting. Elliot examined the bill with exaggerated care. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a pen. And that was when he looked up at her and smiled, not kindly, not appreciatively, but like a man who had been waiting for this moment all night. You know, he said loudly, I believe in incentives. A few heads turned. People perform better when rewards are tied to results. Maya's mouth went dry. And tonight, Elliot continued, you failed to meet expectations. The pen scratched against the paper. He slid the receipt toward her. 0, he said, a fair reflection of the service. The room seemed to tilt. Maya felt the heat rush to her face, the pounding in her ears. She glanced at the receipt, hoping stupidly that maybe she'd misheard. $0 under it, earn it next time. A woman at a nearby table gasped softly. Someone else shook their head. Maya stood frozen. I depend on tips, she said quietly. I worked your table for 3 hours, Elliot shrugged. Then perhaps you should consider a job better suited to your abilities. The manager lingered near the bar, eyes darting between them. He did nothing. Maya's chest ached. She thought of Lena's daycare, the envelope on her kitchen counter, the fragile balance she fought every day to maintain. I'm sorry you feel that way, she said, voice trembling despite her efforts. Have a good evening. She reached for the plates. That was when her fingers brushed something unexpected beneath the main dish. Paper, thick, folded. She paused. Elliot noticed immediately. What are you doing? Maya slid the plate aside. An envelope lay beneath it. The cream color stood out starkly against the white tablecloth. The wax seal caught the light. The room leaned in again. What is that? Someone whispered. That's not mine, Elliot snapped. I didn't leave you anything. Maya picked it up slowly. Her name was written across the front in elegant script. Her breath caught. Elliot stood. Give me that. No, she said, surprising herself with the firmness of her voice. She broke the seal. Inside was a card. And a black key card. The compass rose. Her knees weakened. The words on the card blurred through sudden tears. You did everything right tonight. The room went silent. Elliot stared, confusion flickering across his face. What kind of trick is this? Maya pressed the envelope to her chest, heart racing. She felt something shift inside her, something long buried, now stirring awake. The manager stepped forward. Maya, is everything okay? She looked up, meeting Elliot's eyes. Yes, she said softly. Because for the first time that night, she wasn't powerless anymore. Elliot scoffed, but there was a crack in his confidence now. This is ridiculous. You're making a scene. Maya shook her head. No, sir, you did that. She turned away from the table, envelope still in hand, leaving Elliot standing there amid the whispers and stares. He had no idea that the envelope under his plate carried a truth that would unravel everything he thought he controlled. And just as he opened his mouth to call for security, the front doors of Belmont Grill swung open, and the air in the room changed. The doors didn't slam, they didn't creak. They opened with a smooth, deliberate quiet that somehow felt louder than any sound Belmont Grill had heard all night. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. The pianist's hands hesitated over the keys before drifting into silence. Every head turned toward the entrance. A man stepped inside. He was in his late 50s, tall, silver-haired, wearing a simple dark coat that looked unremarkable until you noticed how the staff reacted. The hostess straightened instantly. The manager's face drained of color, and Elliot Cross froze, not because he recognized the man at first, but because something in his posture, calm, unhurried, utterly unafraid, radiated authority. The man's eyes scanned the room once, then landed on Maya, and softened. "Maya," he said gently, her breath caught. The sound of her name in that voice, steady, familiar, hit her harder than Elliot's cruelty ever could. She felt the room blur as tears spilled freely now, unchecked. "Mr. Hale," she whispered. A ripple moved through the restaurant. Hale, the name landed like a dropped glass. Elliot's frown deepened. "Hale," he repeated slowly. The man approached, stopping beside Maya. He looked at the envelope in her hands, then at her face. "I was hoping I wouldn't be too late," he said quietly. Maya shook her head, voice trembling. "I didn't think you'd really, it's been years." Mr. Hale smiled sadly. "Some promises don't expire." Elliot stepped forward now, irritation flashing. "Excuse me," he said sharply. "I don't know who you think you are, but this is a private matter." Mr. Hale turned, and the temperature in the room dropped. "I am Richard Hale," he said evenly, "founder and majority shareholder of Hale Compass Holdings." A stunned silence fell. Hale Compass Holdings. The name was legendary. A private investment firm so powerful it didn't chase trends, it created them. They owned stakes in hospitals, tech firms, real estate empires. Their logo, the compass, rose. Maya's hands tightened around the envelope. Elliot's face paled. "That's not possible," Elliot said, forcing a laugh. "Richard Hale retired years ago." "I stepped back from public appearances," Richard replied calmly. "Not from my responsibilities." The manager rushed forward, stammering. "Mr. Hale, we didn't know you were coming tonight." "That was intentional," Richard said. His gaze drifted past the manager straight to Elliot. "I wanted to observe." Elliot's confident posture faltered. "Observe what? How people behave when they think no one important is watching." A murmur rippled through the diners. Richard turned back to Maya. "May I?" She nodded. He took the card from her hands gently and held it up so the room could see. "You did everything right tonight," he read aloud. "Those words were written because I watched you, every moment." Elliot scoffed weakly. "This is absurd. She's a waitress." "Yes," Richard said, "and once she was also the brightest analyst my firm had ever recruited." The room gasped. Maya closed her eyes. Memories flooded back, late nights, spreadsheets, strategy sessions. The day she'd been offered a junior partnership track before life derailed everything. Richard continued, his voice steady but heavy with meaning. "Maya Carter disappeared from the industry after personal circumstances forced her to step away. She never cashed her final bonus, never asked for favors, never complained." He turned to Elliot again. "Do you know why?" Elliot said nothing. "Because she has integrity," Richard said. "Something money can't buy." Elliot's face flushed. "Even if that were true, it has nothing to do with." "It has everything to do with tonight," Richard interrupted. He gestured to the table. "You humiliated her. Publicly, you assumed her value based on her uniform." Elliot straightened defensively. "I left a zero tip. That's not illegal." "No," Richard agreed, "but your behavior tonight violated the ethics clause of every partnership agreement you've signed with my firm." The words landed like a hammer. Elliot's eyes widened. "What?" "You see," Richard said calmly, "this dinner was part of a character audit." A wave of whispers surged. "Audit?" someone murmured. Richard nodded. "Hale Compass has been evaluating its association with certain high-profile partners. We don't just invest in profits, we invest in people." He looked Elliot dead in the eye. "And you failed." Elliot's confidence cracked completely now. "You can't be serious. I generate billions." "And yet," Richard said softly, "you couldn't generate basic decency." Maya felt something shift in her chest, a release she didn't know she'd been holding for years. Richard turned to her again. "The envelope under the plate wasn't a tip." He lifted the black keycard. "It's an access card to my office." The room erupted in stunned murmurs. Elliot staggered back a step. "You're offering her what, a job after all this?" Richard smiled faintly. "Not a job." He faced the room. "I'm reinstating Maya Carter as a senior partner at Hale Compass Holdings, effective immediately." The silence that followed was absolute. Maya gasped, one hand flying to her mouth. "Richard, you earned it," he said gently. "Then and now." Her knees buckled. Richard steadied her. Tears streamed freely now, not from humiliation, but from something overwhelming and bright, vindication. Elliot's voice came out hoarse. "You can't do this." "Oh, I can," Richard replied, "and I am." He turned to the manager. "Effective tonight, Hale Compass is withdrawing all financial interests from Belmont Grill." The manager went pale. "Mr. Hale, please." "That includes your parent company," Richard added, "and every expansion project currently funded." The manager looked like he might faint. Elliot stared in disbelief. "You're punishing an entire business because of one interaction." "No," Richard said. "I'm correcting a culture that allows this interaction." He placed a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. "And as for you," he said to her softly, "your daughter's daycare has been taken care of, as well as your housing." Maya sobbed openly now. "I watched you apologize for things that weren't your fault," Richard continued. "I watched you endure cruelty with grace, and I watched you protect your dignity when it mattered most." He turned back to Elliot. "You watched her as less." Elliot's mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time in his life, powerless, security approached quietly, not toward Maya, but toward Elliot. "Mr. Cross," the head of security said firmly, "we're going to escort you out." Elliot laughed shakily. "This is insane." Richard met his gaze one last time. "No," he said, "this is accountability." As Elliot was led toward the exit, every eye in the restaurant followed him, not with awe, but with judgment. Maya stood in the center of it all, trembling, stunned, clutching an envelope that had turned her world upside down. The humiliation was gone. In its place, truth, relief, justice. And for the first time in years, Maya allowed herself to believe this was only the beginning. The sound of Elliot Cross's heels echoed down the hallway outside the restaurant, a hollow rhythm that seemed to mock the chaos of the night. Behind him, the staff and diners were silent, watching the billionaire, the man who had thought himself untouchable, being removed, not violently, but with undeniable authority. The whispers that had begun as curiosity had now transformed into murmurs of approval, admiration, and a shared sense of vindication for Maya Carter. Maya turned back to Richard Hale, still trembling, tears streaking down her face. The enormity of what had just happened hadn't fully registered yet. In her hands, the envelope, the keycard, felt heavier now, almost symbolic, a weight of opportunity and recognition she had believed lost forever. Her breath caught as Richard spoke softly, his calm presence grounding her. "You've endured a lot," he said, his eyes kind but piercing, as though seeing every sacrifice she had made. "Years of being overlooked, underestimated, and judged. But tonight proved something very important. Character is never invisible, and integrity is never wasted." Maya blinked, letting the words sink in. I just," her voice cracked. "I didn't think anyone saw me, not really." Richard smiled faintly. "I saw you, I always did, and now others will too." The manager, still pale and flustered, finally stepped forward. "Mr. Hale, what does this mean for the restaurant?" He stammered, "And Elliot Cross." Richard's expression hardened ever so slightly. "Belmont Grill will remain open, but under new guidance. As for Mr. Cross, I've instructed that his financial and business connections with the restaurant are terminated immediately. The lesson must be clear. Behavior has consequences, and cruelty toward those who serve you is not tolerated." Maya's eyes widened. The manager nodded rapidly, speechless. Even the other staff, who had been silently watching, began to whisper among themselves, some smiling with relief. For once, injustice was being corrected right in front of them. Richard's gaze returned to Maya. "Now, let's talk about you. This isn't just about revenge or retribution, it's about opportunity. You are being reinstated as a senior partner at Hale Compass Holdings. The keycard you received grants you access to our offices, resources, and projects. We recognize your talents, your perseverance, and your unwavering integrity. This is your chance to reclaim your career, your life, and everything you've worked so hard to protect for your daughter." Maya felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath her. The words blurred, a mixture of disbelief, relief, and joy coiling in her chest. She looked down at the keycard, then back at Richard. I don't know what to say. I've waited so long for something like this, but I never imagined it would come like this." Richard placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You don't need to say anything. You've earned it through every choice you've made, every hour you've worked, and every hardship you've endured. Let this be the first of many changes in your life, and tonight, let it also be a reminder to everyone here that dignity and kindness are never wasted." The staff began to gather around her, some still unsure what to do, others beaming with pride. One of the younger servers, eyes wide, whispered, "I never thought anyone would stand up for us like that." Maya's lips curved into a small smile. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, she said, her voice steadier now. And sometimes the right people notice. Always do your best, even when no one is watching. Richard nodded. Well said. Now let's make sure the rest of tonight is celebrated, not marred by someone who has clearly failed to understand the value of respect. As the staff relaxed, Maya noticed a few diners staring at her with admiration. A woman at a nearby table called out softly, "You deserved that," and Maya gave her a grateful smile. Richard leaned in, lowering his voice. "There's one more thing," he said. "Your daughter's schooling, your rent, even the outstanding bills, they've all been taken care of. You've been carrying so much weight for so long. Tonight you can finally let someone share that burden with you." Maya's throat tightened. For years, she had felt trapped by circumstance, forced to make impossible choices and sacrifices. Now, for the first time, someone was acknowledging her struggle and helping her rise above it. She clutched the keycard tighter, tears spilling freely. "Thank you," she whispered. I can't even explain how much this means." Richard smiled softly. "Actions speak louder than words, Maya, and you've shown more courage, patience, and intelligence in one night than most people show in a lifetime. You've earned every bit of this. Now it's your turn to flourish and to ensure that others never feel powerless the way you once did." Maya turned to the staff again, seeing their faces light up with hope. "Listen," she said, voice strong, "we've all worked so hard, and sometimes it feels like the world doesn't notice, but it does. People are watching, even if we don't realize it. And tonight, I think we've all learned a valuable lesson. Treat others with respect, no matter who they are, because character is everything, always." The staff erupted into applause, not just for Maya, but for the vindication, for the justice that had finally been served. Jess, who had been nervously hovering nearby, grabbed Maya's hand and squeezed it. "You've earned this, Maya. You've always earned it." Maya felt the tension in her body release for the first time in years. Every shift, every insult, every sleepless night, all of it had led to this moment. Not only had she defended her own dignity, but she had been recognized for her true worth in front of the very person who had attempted to humiliate her. Meanwhile, Elliot Cross sat outside, escorted by security, humiliated and powerless. The realization of his failure settled over him like a dark cloud. All the money, all the influence, all the arrogance, worthless against integrity, kindness, and quiet strength. His own disbelief was the loudest sound in his head. For once, he was nothing. Inside, the mood shifted entirely. The restaurant, once a place of tension and intimidation, now felt warm. People were smiling, laughing softly, exchanging quiet congratulations. And at the center of it all was Maya, standing tall, tears still streaking her cheeks, but smiling for the first time without fear or apology. Richard finally placed a hand on her shoulder. "Tonight isn't just a victory for you, Maya. It's a reminder to all of us justice can be swift and kindness is always rewarded. Never forget that." Maya nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose igniting inside her. "I won't," she said. "I promise." The room had transformed from a scene of humiliation into one of celebration, relief, and renewal. Maya had been vindicated. Justice had been served. And in that moment, she realized that her life was no longer about survival. It was about thriving, about embracing opportunity, about showing Lena that dignity, perseverance, and integrity were worth more than anything money could buy. The evening continued, but for Maya, the world had already shifted. She had reclaimed her narrative. She had proved that character could never be undermined by arrogance or cruelty, and she had reminded everyone present, including the humbled billionaire, that true power lies not in wealth or status, but in integrity and courage. When the last of the diners had left and the restaurant quieted, Richard turned to her once more. "Are you ready for the next chapter?" Maya smiled, nodding. "Yes, I've been waiting my whole life for it." He gave a small nod. "Good. Because from here on out, you won't just be surviving, you'll be leading. And this time, the world will see you for exactly who you are." For the first time, Maya believed it. 1 year later, Maya Carter's life looked nothing like it had on that fateful night at Belmont Grill. Her mornings began not with anxiety, but with quiet confidence. She woke to Lena's laughter as the little girl readied herself for school, her backpack now neatly organized, shoes clean, hair brushed. Maya had more than just financial stability. She had freedom, purpose, and a renewed sense of self. The small one-bedroom apartment had been replaced by a bright, sunlit loft in the city's center, a space both practical and beautiful, reflecting Maya's taste and intelligence. There was room for Lena to play, to dream, and to grow without the constant shadow of worry. Every morning, Maya sipped her coffee by the window, gazing out at the skyline, silently counting her blessings. Work had transformed completely. Maya had stepped into Hale Compass Holdings as a senior partner, responsible for major projects and strategic investments. She wasn't just a cog in a machine anymore. She was a leader, guiding teams, mentoring young talent, and making decisions that shaped industries. The office buzzed with activity, but Maya had a steady hand, a calm voice, and a presence that commanded respect, not through fear, but through integrity and intelligence. Her staff often remarked on her unique leadership style. She remembered her own years of being judged unfairly, overlooked, and undervalued. She never forgot the sting of that humiliation under Elliot Cross's gaze, and she made sure that no one under her guidance ever felt invisible. "Are you ready for today's pitch?" asked Marcus, one of her junior analysts, holding a tablet with the day's agenda. Maya smiled warmly. "Yes, and let's remember confidence, clarity, and kindness. Those three things win more deals than arrogance ever could." Marcus nodded, inspired. "Got it." Even Lena's life had flourished. Maya had arranged for her to attend a private school with excellent programs in science and the arts. Lena thrived, excelling in mathematics and music, her curiosity boundless. The child who had once asked why Santa forgot their house now learned about the world without fear or limitation. One Saturday afternoon, Maya took Lena to a small cafe near the park, enjoying a rare day off. Lena chattered excitedly about her art project, showing Maya a colorful sketch of a spaceship. Maya laughed and praised her daughter's creativity, holding the drawing up proudly. "You know, Mom," Lena said, eyes shining, "you always tell me to do my best even when no one is watching. I get it now. I think I get it." Maya hugged her tightly. "That's right, baby. Always do your best. The rest will follow." Meanwhile, news of Elliot Cross's behavior had spread, thanks in part to a few patrons who had witnessed the incident at Belmont Grill. The billionaire had faced professional consequences, public backlash, loss of business partnerships, and a seriously damaged reputation. Some of his ventures faltered, while others distanced themselves, wary of associating with someone whose arrogance had become legendary for all the wrong reasons. He had learned, painfully and publicly, that money and influence could not shield cruelty. And though Maya never sought revenge, watching the world hold him accountable offered a quiet satisfaction she didn't have to articulate. Maya's relationship with Richard Hale had grown, too. Not just professionally, but personally. He became a mentor, a guide, someone who reminded her that the values she held dear were rare and precious. He often stopped by the office to discuss strategy, sometimes pausing to check in on Lena, whose laughter echoed through his heart as it did through Maya's. In the office one afternoon, Richard approached Maya's desk, his signature calm presence noticeable even in the bustling room. "You've done remarkably well," he said, glancing at the spreadsheets displayed on her monitors. "It's impressive to see how quickly you've adapted and how effectively you lead." Maya looked up and smiled. "I had a lot to prove, not to you, but to myself. I've learned that no amount of money or status can replace integrity and perseverance, and I won't ever forget that lesson." Richard nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Good, and now it's your turn to help shape the future, not just for Hale Compass, but for the people who will follow you. Your journey can inspire them, Maya. Don't underestimate the power of your story." Maya's eyes glistened. "I won't. I'll make sure no one forgets it." Back at Belmont Grill, the restaurant had undergone subtle yet meaningful changes. Staff morale improved, and Richard's oversight ensured that respect, kindness, and professionalism became core values. Maya occasionally visited, often with Lena, sharing a quiet smile with the team that had once watched in awe as she faced humiliation and emerged triumphant. Even in her moments of reflection, Maya didn't dwell on the past. She used it as fuel, motivation to continue striving, to continue being a model of integrity in a world that sometimes rewarded cruelty. The envelope under the plate that had seemed like a mysterious token of fate had indeed been the catalyst, a bridge from hardship to triumph, from humiliation to empowerment. 1 year later, Maya Carter stood as a testament to resilience. She had transformed her life without losing her heart, without compromising her principles. She had proven that character, kindness, and perseverance could withstand the worst adversity, and ultimately they could triumph spectacularly. The moral was clear and undeniable. True wealth isn't measured in dollars or influence. It's measured in integrity, courage, and the love we show to those who depend on us. Humility, patience, and self-respect are the silent forces that shape lives far more profoundly than arrogance or cruelty ever could. And as for Elliot Cross, his lessons were harsher, quieter, and far more personal. He had been publicly exposed for his arrogance and forced to confront the consequences of his actions. His failures stood in stark contrast to Maya's victories, a living reminder that cruelty never pays and integrity always prevails. The final scene closes on Maya and Lena, walking hand in hand through the city park, sunlight glinting off the glass buildings. Maya glances down at her daughter, sees hope and curiosity shining in her eyes, and feels the deep, unshakable joy of a life rebuilt. She turns to the camera as if addressing everyone who has followed her story. Never let anyone make you feel small. Keep working, keep believing, and stay true to yourself. Life has a way of rewarding those who remain steadfast, even when it seems impossible. Remember, your character is your greatest asset. Her smile brightens, full of hope and confidence. And if you believe in someone, if you give kindness, even when it's not returned, you'll see that the world has a way of giving it back when you least expect it, just like it did for me. The camera pans upward, capturing the city skyline, the glimmering sunlight reflecting on glass towers. Maya and Lena walk forward, confident, unafraid, ready to embrace the future, together unstoppable and empowered. If Maya's story inspired you, like this video, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting and motivational stories. Remember, no matter the obstacles, your integrity, courage, and kindness can change your life, and sometimes the world.